morning. Welcome to the wonderful new library in the city of Rancho Mirage. You're applauding now, but wait till you see what we have to show you. This is the greatest library in the history of libraries. Certainly the greatest library in all of California.
Drum roll.
This is the culmination really of a number of years of effort to design and build the new Rancho Mirage Public Library, and now we're seeing it come into fruition today on January 8th, 2006. I think the interesting thing is that this is 10 years plus one day to the date of the opening of the original Rancho Mirage Public Library. I just feel very, very blessed.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Aaron Espinoza, and I have the distinct privilege of being the Library and Observatory Director, as well as the Director of the Rancho Mirage Writers Festival. Thank you. As you can see from our few-minute video, we're turning 30 this year. So if you haven't already, please take a look at our program guide. We have a special celebration on January 7th to celebrate our 30th anniversary. It'll be, in addition to 4-hand jazz pianists, we're going to be playing some games. We're going to be playing Rancho Mirage Squares, Let's Make a Deal, and we're going to have a really good time for family and friends. So please come out. But all season long, we will be celebrating our 30th birthday. So before we get underway, I do want to ask that everybody silence your cell phones. Our authors don't mind a lively dialogue, but they draw the line at the vintage ringtones. If your phone does ring, we're just going to assume it's your long-awaited book deal that's arrived. So just a few quick thank yous. Jamie Kabler. Our festival founder, His imagination, passion created something truly special here. Because of your belief, Jamie, in what our community of readers could be, we gather every year for conversations that stay with us long after the festival ends. Thank you for dreaming big and making this real. To Jordan Snitcher, our sponsor of the Writer Series, who could not be here today, thank you. His generosity and kindness can be felt throughout our community. It is thanks to Jordan that we are able to host remarkable authors such as here today and distribute over 200 free books at every single author or every single event. So please give a round of applause to Jordan Snitcher. To our city council, thank you for embracing the arts and supporting programs that enrich the lives across our city. Today, I'd like to acknowledge, for the first time on the stage, I get to announce she was newly appointed, our mayor, Lynn Mulatto. Also new to his role, Mayor Pro Tem Michael O'Keefe. And also in attendance, Councilmember Ted Weil. I also want to say thank you to our extraordinary staff here at the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory. I am profoundly grateful to lead such a dedicated and thoughtful group. The success of this library and observatory reflects your hard work and belief in what we do. I also want to take one special moment and thank two gentlemen that don't get a lot of praise here. Steven Garcia and Julio Torres, our AV team, they're up in that production booth. I see you, Steven. You may not always get to be seen, but your work is seen, and it's also felt through every single program. Your precision, your calm presence, and your behind-the-scenes brilliance keep our programs going and running seamlessly. Thank you for all you guys do. Our 2026 Writer Series, we've got a great lineup coming up. I'm not going to go through every single which one describing them, but I'm just going to name them. We've got Trina Turk, Charlie English, David Charter, Jim Newton, and Andrew McCarthy will close it out on April 7th. You'll get to know more about that information on our Writer Festival website, along with our program guides coming up. And although I've just shared a sneak peek for the 2026 lineup, we still have one more Writer Series program for 2025. So next Tuesday, December 16th, we'll welcome Brant McDuff, author of The Shotgun Conservationist, Why Environmentalists Should Love Hunting. His work offers a thoughtful look at the unexpected ways hunting and conservation support one another, revealing how ethical stewardship of the land benefits both the wildlife and our environment. We hope to see you here. Now on to a little thing we call the Rancho Mirage Writers Festival here in 2025. We're having it in 2026, in January of 2026, I mispronounced. We're gathering over 74 writers and special guests, including keynote speaker Ken Burns and closing speaker Melinda Gates. This festival has become a cornerstone of our cultural life, a place where important ideas meet open minds, and where meaningful dialogue flourishes. This year's audience of over 1,400 people will include our angels, our readers, and a full slate of authors. It will also include over 100 students from our local high schools. Their presence alongside our broader community speaks to the enduring value of bringing great writers directly to Rancho Mirage. And although the festival is sold out, I want to share something that we're personally proud of. Last year we experimented with live streaming, and the response was extraordinary. We heard from the people across the Coachella Valley and across the country who were grateful to feel included, even though they could not attend in person. So this year we're going even bigger. We're thrilled to offer the entire Rancho Mirage Writers Festival, with just a few exceptions, as a free live stream this year. With a simple click, you'll be able to choose from all 4 sessions, switch between them whenever you would like, and experience the festival from anywhere. Your living room, your office, a classroom, anywhere in the country, or around the world. This is more about convenience. This is more than about convenience. It's about opening the doors wider. Tickets are limited, but the curiosity isn't. The love for reading isn't. The desire to learn and connect isn't. We want every person, whether or not they can be at the festival, to share in the ideas that define this festival. And offering the live stream is our free commitment to making this experience accessible to everyone. Now to today's program. We'd like to welcome back Molly Jong-Fast, discussing, oh, go ahead, please, let her hear it. Discussing her heartfelt, courageous memoir, How to Lose Your Mother, A Daughter's Memoir. Guiding in the conversation will be Robert Shrum, distinguished political strategist, author, and director of the USC Dornsiff Center for Political Future. Please join me in welcoming Robert Shrum and Molly Jong-Fast.
Good afternoon. Every year I look forward to being part of the Best Writers Festival in America. This year I get to come a little bit early to be part of this remarkable series of programs which the Writers Festival and Jamie have contributed to this community. And it's a privilege to be here today to interview Molly Jong-Fast about her new book, How to Lose Your Mother.
Oh,
and I hope she won't mind if about halfway through we turn to some other less personal and more political issues.
We're gonna split it up.
Yeah.
Do some family, some
you know,
politics.
You can read her in the New York Times. You've seen her on television. That's how most of us know her. But How to Lose Your Mother is a deeply personal revelation of her life, powerful, brave, and searing in its impact. So, Molly, let me begin with this. Your mother, Erica Jong, was a famous, groundbreaking, best-selling author. You write, fame, like alcoholism, rings a bell in you that can never be unrung.
Yeah.
You were raised with privilege and with pain.
Yeah.
And you observe, I wish I had asked my mother why, if she loved me so much, she didn't ever want to spend time with me. But there was no way she would ever have given me a straight answer. Can you talk about that and why you wrote the book?
So I wrote the book because I wanted to write a book that wasn't a throwaway book. I wanted to write a book that you could read 10 years from now and would still make sense. And I wanted to write about something that was uniquely interesting and personal, but very universal. And so when my mom started getting dementia and she started sort of slipping away, and then my husband got diagnosed with cancer, when that happened, I started to realize, like, this actually, I mean, this is kind of bad, but it sort of worked as a book. And I was like, this is kind of a year, like it's sort of shaped like a memoir, like a year of magical thinking. And I wanted it to be relatable. And what's been so gratifying about this experience is that, you know, I had such a tough time with the situation with my mom and trying to figure out what the right thing to do with her was. And when people read this book, they really relate to it, and we have these conversations about how hard it is. And so I feel really gratified about that. That said, it's a bit strange to write a book that's not about, like, there is, you know, it did really well, but there's no, like, memoir part 2 for me. Like, I probably will write about politics again, so it was kind of a strange sort of diversion.
Was it hard to be this personal?
Yes. And I actually thought it was really hard. I felt like it was the right thing, and to write about my father-in-law dying, you know, just as sort of a lot of these experiences, which I think a lot of people can relate to. But it was really hard. And what I thought would happen was that because there's so much sort of dog-eat-dog stuff with the politics right now, that people would read it, that sort of that I was writing my own Oppo research file or something. That's what worried me. And actually, that was not the experience. People read it and related to it and took it with what it was meant to be.
You describe your mother as a high-functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
What role did that play in your childhood and in all the years since then with her?
So I got sober when I was 19. And and I always like to talk about that because I think it's really important to destigmatize alcoholism. And I know that I don't think I knew you could get sober as a teenager and stay sober. And so I want to model that behavior for people so that they can see that this is not a moral failing, it's a genetic issue. And so I do try to talk about it all the time. And for me, that sort of, I've certainly struggled, but not drinking has been a really good start. But it was tough, and having an alcoholic parent is really hard, and being able to show up for her. And, what looked like high-functioning alcoholism, that doesn't ever end in a magnificent way. It always ends in a pretty tragic way. So it was tough, but I do think, we're a country that still so struggles with how to treat addiction and and what that looks like, and we have such problems with addiction that I was really glad to get to talk about that.
And how many books did she write while she was a high-functioning alcoholic?
She wrote a ton of books. I mean, not as many books as my grandfather, but she wrote a lot of books, and she did a lot of great stuff. I mean, I think she suffered a lot, and it was really painful for her. And more than anything, I just feel like it was a very tough way to go through life.
So you kind of are willing to let her off the hook for what happened to you as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And I also think, what's so interesting about writing this book was I was able to really get some distance from the story. And I don't know. I feel very grateful. I think she did the best she could, and I'm doing the best I could. And, she came, and I actually was writing about this for the Times. She was born in 1942. Like, the world that she came into was such a radically different world than the world I inherited. And those second wave feminists did amazing things for us. I always say, without, Gloria Steinem walked so I could tweet.
So I was fascinated reading this, that you were a barely disguised character in a number of your mother's books.
Yes.
And you tell us that you felt comfortable writing about her so candidly.
Yes.
Because she always wrote about you.
Well, she knew. I mean, now I did not get it as bad as some of the other people who got it. Everyone was a character in the books. Her siblings, her sisters, her ex-husbands, So I was like a very sort of nice character, but there are other people maybe in this audience who had other experiences with being written about. But we had a sort of pact. She knew that I would write about her, and she wrote about me.
And you say, I want to tell the whole story, not for any kind of pity, but for the hope that telling it will make me stop trying to relive it.
Yeah. And I also think a memoir is sort of a sacred covenant. Writing is really important to me. And if I'm going to write a memoir, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm not going, I think the worst kind of memoirs are the memoirs where there's a sort of fake honesty. I think the job is, if you're going to invite a reader in, that you're just going to give them everything. I think it's a responsibility.
Does it work? Does it exercise whatever the burden of those memories?
I think for me what it did was it made them make sense in a way. And I definitely saw the ways in which I had been still kind of trying to replay. Basically the big revelation I got from working on this book was that if you have a happy childhood, you're just seized by nostalgia because you want to go back. And if you have an unhappy childhood, you just can't get out of it,
And so you gotten out of it some?
I'm out of it. I feel pretty out of it.
Yeah.
I have been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. So.
You already had a child when your twins came along.
Yeah.
And you write about the birth experience, which was hard and excruciating.
Yes.
And it then became what you call a peripheral episode in another of your mother's novels.
Yes, that was very annoying. Look, I feel, somebody interviewed me for this book, this really cute girl, and her mother wrote about her all the time. And she and her sister thought it was hilarious. And it made me want to have a sort of more generous view on her writing about me, because I felt like, it is a very strange experience, and there's something to be said for it. And she's not, she was kind about me. This particular experience was less kind. She did, towards the later book, she did some acting out in the books. And she was very mad at me, and she made, there was a whole Naomi Wolf acting out scene that, anyway. What can you do?
Look, in a very short period, compressed period of time, your mother and stepfather had to be moved to assisted living. Your stepfather would die. Your husband was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
How did you cope with all this? You had always been so close to Jerry, the housekeeper.
Yeah.
And she had to be let go. And you had your mother in constant decline from dementia. And you say, the mother I was desperate for, that mother, she is gone and she will never be.
It was dark. I mean, what I did was I went to sleep at 7:30. That is the greatest trick I've ever known. I would eat ice cream and then go to bed at 7:30. And it was like, and I wake up the next day and I feel pretty good, But yeah, it was really tough. I mean, what was so interesting was it actually was like this Joan Didion style. I wanted to write this Joan Didion style memoir, and I literally had a Joan Didion style year where all this stuff happened, and it was really unbelievably bad. And I would be like, this is so bad. And then it sort of ended. But there were a lot of, like we go to this funeral home to bury my father-in-law, and then we were back to bury my step-aunt. There was just constant, and they said, oh, you're back. You were just here 3 weeks ago. And I said, yes. We were not up to us, But it was very, it was really an interesting, it was a really hard year, but it was also, I just learned a lot about myself, which was great.
You told me earlier when we were chatting that older people, and I resemble that category, some of them are really upset by the book, while younger people seem quite accepting of it.
So what I would say is, if you're my age, you love this book because it makes you feel like you can, the whole message of the book is just do the best you can. Don't torture yourself. And if you're older, some older people feel the message of the book is put your parents in a home. Now, that is not the message of the book, but there are people who think that. And so it's a sort of split audiences a little bit, yes. And a book like this is so personal that sometimes people will come to me and say things that I feel like are really more about their experience with the work or their experience with the time period than really about me.
How hard was it to make the decision that they should go to assisted living and to tell your mother, and how did she react?
That was like one of the worst things I've ever done. I mean, it was just so, I couldn't explain it to them, and I kept trying to explain it to them, and I would come over every day with this book for this assisted living place, and sometimes they'd say yes, and sometimes they'd say no, but they wouldn't remember the next day. So I'd come back with the book the next day, and I'd say, look, and it has a swimming pool, and then I'd leave, and then the next day I'd come back. It was every day was Groundhog's Day for 2 weeks. I don't know that was the best use of my time. But I did do it.
But it was the only choice.
No, I had to put them in the home, but I'm not sure that coming over every day, the book, and being like, look, this is where you're going, isn't it nice? I don't know. There was the reason why I'm glad I got to write this book was it just was there have been so many things in my life where it's become clear how to do them, like having a baby, a newborn baby. It's difficult, but you sort of figure it out. or, other life events. But this was like sending a kid to college, you sort of figured out. But this was like, there was no great way to do it. And so that's why I also wanted to write about it, because I think people really do have regret.
Yeah. So Fear of Flying Alone sold 20 million copies.
Yeah.
And your mother sold millions of other books. Was she pretty well off when these decisions... I mean, you write in the book about how when you traveled to Europe, you always went first class, stayed in the best hotels.
So, was she pretty well off? She was okay. She wasn't like... There are writers like Steve King who really made a lot of money. She was not one of those writers, but she did okay. I mean... But
she lived as if she had.
She lived very high, but she was not... some of those people where they wrote huge series and they had shows and movies, that's really how you make the money. I'm sorry to tell you.
Well,
I'm disappointed. And those paperbacks, when those paperback books in the 70s, you got like 3 cents a book. It wasn't, they were not a great way to make money.
And your paperback is coming out.
Yes.
On Mother's Day.
Yes. And maybe it can sell 57 million copies. No, I don't think so. But that's okay.
One sidelight I want to talk about just for a minute is I had no idea until I read the book that your grandfather was Howard Fast.
Yes.
The first piece of historical fiction that I ever read as a child, I think it might have been 10 or 11, was Spartacus.
Yeah.
And he also had to confront McCarthyism.
Yes.
Because he was not like a secret communist. He was a proud communist.
No, he was the last living recipient of the Stalin Peace Prize, as given to him by Stalin. Yes. I'm sorry to tell you. Yes, he did. He was late to disavow Stalin. That was not his best move. He wrote these historical novels. He wrote Spartacus. He was involved in the movie of Spartacus. He went to jail for refusing to name names. He was in jail for, I think, 3 months. Yeah, okay. I'm looking at my dad and stepmom to make sure I'm right. 3 months. And he I think it was a pretty significant experience in his life. And I have to say, it's funny because it's like there was this moment after Trump 2.0, after Trump got elected. Can we go into politics now?
Sure.
Okay.
I was about to anyway.
Okay, good. When after Trump got reelected, where people were really scared, like all of a sudden you saw they're scared, but I think it's a little better now. People sort of see this is not a fait accompli, that voters don't like it. There's a lot of pushback. You have yoga moms in Illinois wearing abolish ICE t-shirts, okay? So I don't think voters like it, but there was this chill, and I thought so much about my grandfather, and I thought so much about, like, what does it take to be brave? Like, what will you do? Because even I would have these moments on television where I would be careful because you don't want to end up with a ton of death threats. But
you get some, right?
You get some, but you don't want to end up on like an RNC clip reel. That's like what you don't want. You don't want them showing video of you at Turning Point USA.
Or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right, Marjorie Taylor. Well, everything went in a direction I never thought it would. But I thought a lot about my grandfather because, the blacklist was not just 10 months of being a little scared. It was like, he went to jail, he couldn't publish books. My grandmother would tell these stories of people throwing rocks at the windows. I mean, it was really, and even after he got out of jail, he still couldn't publish books. I mean, it was really scary. And it was just I don't know that I have the stuff to have, like, I wondered if I would have had the stuff to have been able to do that.
Well, at the risk of putting you in danger.
Yeah.
How do you assess in the middle of Trump 2.0 where we are as a country and the state of our democracy?
So I think I'm always an optimist, which is my worst quality. And that's the thing where I get the most wrong, is I'm like, people won't do that. That would be terrible. So I always need to kind of temper that. But I think I would say this. Voters don't like it, which is good. He's done a lot. I mean, the unforced errors and this sort of sheer incompetence of the situation. You know, I'm thinking about the people he's put in. You know, he's been trying to get his political enemies, and he can't do these prosecutions. You know, he keeps trying to indict Comey, and he keeps, you know, he had this whole thing where he was trying to indict Letitia James, and he couldn't.
Oh, and he's going to keep trying.
He's going to keep trying. But the incompetence, I think, will save us. And thank God for that. And then you have, but I mean, it's pretty scary. And then Governor Newsom with those 5 congressional seats, that was, I think, a pretty amazing moment for all of us. And I mean, that was, in my mind, I was so impressed that he was able to do that. And that was the kind of pushback that we needed Democrats to do. So I'm feeling a little bit better, but, you know, next year's going to be hairy.
You know, I think the incompetence is to some extent, or maybe entirely, a byproduct of his insistence on blind loyalty.
100%.
JFK once said, you know, if you're in this place, you got to have 3 or 4 people around who are allowed to tell you when you're being a dumb SOB, and you got to reward them, not punish them.
Yeah.
It seems to me Trump has no one like that.
I also think he couldn't get people like that. So the people he got were just the dumbest. The people who would really come in there, and thank God. And so you have, I mean, like the people he's put in as you know, Pam Bondi at least had sort of done stuff before, but she's only allowed to sort of agree with him and go along with him. And all these people know that if they don't sort of do the party line, that they're going to get fired. I still think the biggest, scariest, the member of the Trump cabinet who keeps me up at night is RFK Jr. Because I think the vaccine stuff, we just don't know what the second order effects of, like, you know, he's going to end this hepatitis A vaccine for babies. Disastrous. So that stuff, I really worry about that stuff more than anything, because I just don't know how you put that genie back in the bottle.
Is there anything that you think President Trump has done right?
You know, it's funny because sometimes he does do stuff where inadvertently, where you're like, oh, that could have worked. But usually he's always sort of gotten it. Like some tariffs in Trump 1.0, some tariffs were a good idea, but tariffs have to be surgical, and they have to be, you know, not against people he doesn't like who make him mad, right? It has to be against, yeah. I mean,
putting a, whatever it was initially, a 90% tariff on Cambodia.
Right.
The idea that somehow or other we're going to get the industries that exist in Cambodia to move to the U.S.
No.
I mean...
Yeah. I mean, I just think the sheer emotionality of Trumpism is what has ultimately been the most problematic. Like, do some tariffs, that's fine. You want to bring manufacturing back to the United States, great. But then don't raid the Hyundai facility in Georgia, right? If you want to do that, don't arrest the South Koreans who have come there to work.
Legally. Who came here legally.
Put them on a plane, send them back to South Korea, where they will do months and months of talking about how they were thrown in jail in America. I mean, that stuff, it just, you can't do that.
Do you know, the president's out there today. He's going to campaign in Pennsylvania tonight. Yeah. He hasn't done a Trump rally since, I think, last May.
Yeah.
And that's totally unlike his first term.
Yeah.
I think he enjoys the overseas pomp and circumstance, the honor guards, the gifts he's given.
Likes the gifts.
All of that. I think that's his focus. Do you think it's going to help for him to go out there and say, actually, inflation's in pretty good shape and things are affordable, and I get an A, this is an exact quote, I get an A plus on the economy.
That was, I mean, look, this was, again, Biden got so much static for saying that inflation was transitory and saying that, you know, you may feel the economy is bad, but the fundamentals are good. People didn't like that because ultimately the president gets blamed for the economy. That's nonpartisan. That's just true. And the president can do only so much for the economy, except with Trump, where he really did make it a lot worse. Because he did these tariffs, and they were inflationary, and he did, you know, he's done this thing with immigration, so you have less people willing to work these jobs, and it's a slowdown. And then also you have DOGE cutting the federal government. So those are all things that are going to affect the economy. Let's see what happens. You could see he's sort of scrambling, right? Like, last week, he was like, I'm going to say something racist and see if that gets the base excited, right? He went after Somalia. Why does he care? And then this week, you know, he'll try. I don't know. Susie Wallace said that their midterm strategy is to make Donald Trump the center, to which I say, yes, please.
Yeah. You know, my experience all the years in politics would convey two things to me. One, elections are not what you want them to be about as a candidate. Mm-hmm. They're about what the people want them to be about. Sure. And number two, you can't tell people something that defies their lived experience. Mm-hmm. If they're paying twice as much for ground beef as they were paying before, and you get up and say the economy's in great shape, that's actually going to hurt you.
Yeah.
And I think actually Kamala Harris made a pretty big mistake by emphasizing affordability when she might have talked, if she wanted to, about the dangers to the Constitution, to the country, and to democracy.
I also think, had she been able to run, I mean, look, there were a number of problems that she had that were uniquely her problems, and they were partially because she was a woman, because she was coming in after Biden. I think people were mad at Biden about when he decided to drop out. I think there were a lot of problems, but I also think it was hard to not be able to say, like, this is what I'm going to do differently. And people wanted that. And again, there was a lot of anti-incumbency headwinds. There were voters who were furious, right? We saw that around the globe. They were mad about inflation. They were mad about COVID. They felt that things had not been handled in the right way. And so it would have been really helpful. But I also think it was just hard. You know, I do not think being a lawyer helped her. You know, I think that the sort of in her head being always calculating these sort of legal ramifications of things when you're running against someone who's just like a game show host is not so good. You know, Democrats needed a little bit of game show host.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I think a lot of lawyers who've become presidents have proved not to be as politically skillful as they might have been. The great exception to that is FDR, but I wouldn't think of him as a very serious lawyer.
Yeah.
You know.
I also think if you look back at presidents, and I'd be curious to know what you think of this, but you have these charismatic people who they're unstoppable. I mean, I think about Obama like that. You know, he had been a senator for 2 years. And it was like he just was on everyone's radars. And Bill Clinton was like that too. And so I think coming after Biden, who was not like that, it was to have two different candidates, both of whom were not like wildly charismatic. It was a heavy lift.
Yeah, I get to Biden in a minute because I want to talk about that. But you just said something that resonated with me. You know, in 1956, there was a young senator from Massachusetts who most of the country didn't know at all.
Right.
And he had 3 appearances at the Democratic Convention. One was to narrate this movie about the history of the Democratic Party. 2 was to nominate Adlai Stevenson for the presidency. And 3 was a run for the vice presidency, which when he narrowly lost it, which was his great good fortune, by the way, he gave a very graceful concession speech. And from November of 56 on, after Stevenson lost, he was over 50% in the Gallup poll among Democrats. And who do you want as the Democratic nominee? That's the power of that kind of charisma. I think Obama had that too, although he could be a lawyer at times.
Right, he could. He could. But those speeches that he gave, you just...
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said I wanted to talk about Biden for a minute.
Yeah.
He got a lot of grief. The Sleepy Joe, he was old, he has to hold on to the handrail when he's coming down the steps in Air Force One. Trump now seems to have an uneven gait, swollen ankles, either a Band-Aid or tons of cake makeup on his hand, an MRI, we don't know what it was about.
But it was perfect. We know it was perfect, but we don't know what it was of.
Everything's perfect. Why do you think he doesn't get the same kind of criticism that Biden got?
I don't know. Certainly him falling asleep during that cabinet meeting, when one of his cabinet officials was like, "It's been so great what you've done with the hurricanes," and you look over and he's, I thought, she's thanking him for preventing hurricanes. This has gotten so insane. But I do think, Trump benefits from the insanity of Trumpism, right? That's why he doesn't get held to the same standard. And, there is no other person running for office who could say and do the things Donald Trump has done, right? He called a reporter the other day a little piggy, right? Miss Pig. That kind of stuff would end anyone else's career. So I do think he gets away with a lot. He is, though, and I always say this because I think it's worth remembering, he is now the oldest person to ever be president, right? He's older than Biden. So, and he does not seem like very, very spry. He seems kind of tired.
Let me try a theory out on you.
Yeah, please.
When you watch the fight over who's going to end up with Warner Brothers, and Jared Kushner is part of the Paramount Group, right, and they're going to attempt a hostile takeover. Right. Meanwhile, Netflix's executives are visiting the White House. Most presidents actually do not get actively involved in antitrust questions. Don't you think that it's possible that the media's scared? They're scared. They would be scared to do Sleepy Donald.
Yeah, I think people are scared for sure, though a little bit less. I think the Kimmel thing was actually a really important moment. And when you look back on...
He just got renewed.
I saw that. When you look back, because Donald Trump went after Kimmel, and Brendan Carr was like, we're going to take this guy off the air. And so they took him off the air. And the numbers, if you saw, people just unsubscribed to Disney Plus at huge, huge rates. They lost, I think billions of dollars. The numbers were really, really bad. And what these companies saw was that America's not Russia, right? They're not, American consumers really do know their power. And we saw this with Target, too. Target said they're not going to do DEI, and people just didn't shop at Target. So I do think...
and Costco says they are, right, and they're not changing.
And Costco's going to sue the Trump administration. The American consumer knows they have power, and the mainstream media is not in great shape right now. So... this is not a great moment to pivot to Trump. And if you want to see, I think you're going to see it just, I'll be curious to see what happens, but I think it's a tough moment to pivot to Trump. That said, the stuff Trump is doing with these two deals, there's a really good, Tim Wu has a really good piece in the New York Times today. He's, a guy who thinks a lot. He's a lawyer, a legal scholar who thinks a lot.
Antitrust expert, yeah.
Right, and he says both these deals are illegal. So...
No, he says both of them are going to result in monopolies and substantially diminish consumer choice.
And also,
And the Clayton Act specifically is directed at that.
and it's also, this is the worst kind of crony capitalism. I mean, this is like Hungary 2.0. I mean, he just, his son-in-law, the Saudis. I mean, this is not how any of this is supposed to work.
Okay, let's leave him behind a little bit, although he's implicated in my next question. What's your reaction to this year's the elections, and what do you think they portend for the midterms?
So I went to New Jersey. So there were these two governors' races, right? New Jersey and Virginia, very sort of straight down the middle, women, very centrist, both national security moms. I went to New Jersey because there was a lot of anxiety. I ran into a friend who's a straight reporter. She said, the polls are tightening. I don't know that Mikey's going to be able to do this. I said, really? The polls are tightening? Oh, yes, she's not a good speaker. So I went and I heard her speak. I thought she was pretty good. And I said, I think she's pretty good. And they said, oh, no, it's very tough. Okay, so she won by, 7 points more than Harris? 8 points more than Harris? I think she got...
Oh, yeah, no, she won by double digits.
Right, no, but I think it was 9 points more than Harris. Harris got 6 in D plus 6 in New Jersey. She did a D plus 15.
Yeah.
Some crazy number.
Same thing happened in Virginia.
Right, same thing happened. But Virginia we sort of saw coming because of the Doge stuff. But there was more anxiety about New Jersey. And I think it was a really good lesson that voters don't like this. A lot of the voters, these like lower frequency voters that Trump made an appeal to by being on podcasts and having sneakers and getting in the culture. He really did. They don't like him anymore. You can go on the Joe Rogan podcast and say, I'm going to do all this stuff for you. But if you then become president and don't do any of that stuff, people get mad at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you look at this year's elections, the results are astounding, not just those governor's races, but in Virginia, you had a Democratic candidate for Attorney General who was written off because of some things he had privately messaged several years before that, frankly, in any other year, I think would have destroyed him, won by 7 points. In Georgia, you have these two conventional Bush Republicans who are on the Public Service Commission. They get voted out.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was even talking about it. And my favorite statistic, in Allegheny County, there were 480 races, about 480. The Republicans won 11.
Yeah.
And
no.
So if I were sitting in the White House advising Trump, which I never would be, I'd say we have to do something different, and we can't just go tell people that everything's great, and maybe you should actually behave a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think, because ICE is not in our states right now, we don't see it perhaps, but the people I talk to in Illinois and the people I talk to who live in the District of Columbia.
And Los Angeles.
Right, and actually in Los Angeles, that's right. ICE is really scary, and it makes people really anti-Trump. They're coming here, yeah. So, I mean, when ICE rolls into your town, it doesn't matter what you look like, you don't like it. So that's another thing, and people blame Trump for that because Trump is doing that,
What do you think is going to happen in the midterms?
I mean, I think we were talking about this behind the scenes earlier too, which is there's certainly next year's going to be, I think we all got to sort of gird ourselves for the next year because I think Trump's going to do a lot of really nutty stuff, and we're going to have to make sure that people, that we just focus on protecting norms and institutions, that we focus on making sure that voters are not disenfranchised, that people are able to get out there and vote. I think it's going to be a seismic shift to the left, but I think that they will definitely try to disenfranchise voters every which way because Donald Trump sees what's coming. And, he's already been impeached twice. So he knows where this is going. And I think he'll get impeached again. I want to say one of the really bright spots, I just want to, is Congressman Robert Garcia, who is the California guy, my ranking member of oversight. The reason you keep seeing Epstein stuff every week is because the Democrats on oversight are subpoenaing and releasing photographs and videos and documents, and they're keeping it in the news. And that is the power, that's the power of leadership.
Well, now I have to go back to Trump.
Sorry.
And then I want to do the Democrats. Why do you think the administration and the president have expended so much effort to the point where they've lost allies in the Republican Party on trying to suppress the Epstein files?
It's a mystery. I don't know. Why does Donald Trump not want... I mean, he clearly doesn't have anything to do with Epstein. So it's just strange. I don't know. It must be some kind of misunderstanding. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, or maybe innocent people would get hurt.
He told Marjorie Taylor Greene that a lot of people would get hurt releasing the Epstein files, which I think means...
If they do get hurt, they should get hurt.
I mean, that would be my thinking, but it just... So,
Let's talk about the Democrats.
Yeah.
When you think about the next presidential election, Democrats seem to have a very strong field. What do you think of it, and who do you think would be the best candidates?
Oh, it's the meanest question. It's So this is what I think. I think, and we actually were talking about this behind the scenes. I think that the most important thing is a primary process, a real primary process where voters get to see everybody battle it out on stage and nobody puts their finger on the scale. And I think there are a number of really good governors. There's a lot, when we talk about the Democratic Party, the bench, there's a lot of candidates. There are a lot of really good candidates, but what Democrats need is someone who's really got it, who's really going to go in there and maybe that's Gavin Newsom, and maybe that's, Pritzker, and maybe that's, I think there are a lot of good candidates. Maybe it's Wes Moore. There are a lot of good candidates out there, and they need to get in front of primary voters, and primary voters need to make that decision.
That's absolutely true, because what happened, I saw this in 2004. Howard Dean was at 44% in Iowa in November. Ended up coming in third because people said, let me think about this a little bit more. Let me watch him a little bit more. And they just moved away. So I don't think you can say what each of these people, how each of them will perform until we actually see them out there. We have had a pretty good preview with Newsom.
Yes.
And the social media presence that he has is amazing. And
getting the 5 seats is amazing. But what happens when a governor goes national, you can't predict it. Sometimes people who are just great get on a national stage and just fall apart. So it really is. I mean, you must have seen this a million times. Not a million times, but a couple times.
I've been around a long time.
No, but you must have seen. I mean, you must have seen. The sort of road to the White House is paved with these people who you think for sure, and they
going to be the nominee and all that. You think Newsom? Do you think being from California is a liability, and that he can overcome it if it is?
I think this audience of Californians do, which is baffling to me. No, look, you guys are the 5th largest economy in the world. 4th. Okay, sorry. Very touchy. In my mind, I think. Look, I've seen Newsom debate, and he's really good. So, but I don't. But again, he will be out of office, right? He will no longer be governor by 2020.
That probably helps him.
27. Yeah. So we'll see what he does. I mean, I think there are a number of people who could really be formidable.
You didn't mention the governor of Pennsylvania, Shapiro, or Steve Beshear.
Yeah, Andy Beshear.
Andy Beshear. Steve was his father, who I worked for.
Andy Beshear, Josh Shapiro. There's Pritzker. There are a lot of governors, and there are, I think senators will be a heavier lift.
Okay. What about J.D. Vance on the Republican side?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but he's the dream candidate. Like, run a million J.D. Vances. Like, he called Trump Hitler like 2 years ago. I mean, the guy is so bad at what he does. And the fact that my favorite thing is he feels he has to defend everything any Republican has ever done. Like, the Nazi group chat, he's like, they were just kids. They were like 40. And also, you are under no contractual obligation to defend everything everyone does. Like, I think that's going to be a real problem for him. Also, he's unbelievably unlikable.
So you don't think he has charisma?
I have been shocked at how bad he is at things. Like, shocked. And he's a young guy. Like, he's going to be around forever. I can't wait to see what he does next.
You think it'll be a competitive process, or he'll just lock it up?
It's hard for me to see. The problem Trump is going to have is that he is going to have to say that he won't be president again. And I think he's going to have a really hard time with that. So it could be really tough for J.D. Vance, and that would be really sad. I would feel terrible for him. I'd hate for him to really suffer like that. That would be awful.
What about Donald Trump Jr.?
Yeah, that's another one. What about Tiffany? Nobody ever talks about Tiffany.
I think she's too young.
Too young, yeah. No, I mean, look, the kids have really, it turns out it's Nepo baby harder than it looks. I say this as one myself. Yeah. Harder than it looks.
Okay, a couple last questions. How do you think history will look back on what I regard as a completely singular time for America and for its role in the world?
Very stupid. And I think they'll think we lost our minds, but I also think they'll be like it was some kind of mass psychosis brought about by the phones. But I would say I think another thing that will happen, which the USAID stuff, the cutting all of the foreign aid, there are so many people.
There are hundreds of thousands of kids in Africa
dying
who die.
Yeah, and they're starving to death, and we are going to see the videos and the things that we have tacitly, and we didn't have a choice, but the things that our government has done, I think, are several orders of magnitude worse than we know.
So what do you think individuals can and should do if they share your views in this time?
So for sure you should vote. For sure you should run for office. You should canvass. You should make phone calls. I'm preaching to the choir here, I think. But, you should convince good people to vote, to run for office. That's a real thing, because there is this feeling that, you're too good to run for office, like you can do other stuff. No. We need you. If you're really good, we need you to run for office. It's a real thing that Americans they just feel like running for office is not a good use of their skills. And if we don't have good people in office, running for Congress, it's worth your time. You should do it. And, I think I bully people into running for office all the time. And if you're a woman, by the way, you need to be asked 10 times more than if you're a man. So if you're a woman and you're even thinking of running for office, you should.
One side question, you are a born New Yorker.
Yes.
You are a New Yorker through and through.
Yes.
What do you think about the Mandami election?
Okay, all right, here's what I would say. I like him. I voted for him. I ranked him as one. I did. I like him a lot. But here's what I would say. It's a very tough job. Being mayor is a very tough job. Very few people have come through.
Second toughest job in America.
Yeah. Wait, what's the first?
Well, the president. But the guy we've been talking about earlier.
That's a hard job. But presidents go on to do more stuff, whereas mayor of New York, no. Well, you tend to just sort of curl up and disappear. So it's a tough job, and so I hope that he can do it, right? Especially because the stakes are so high, because he's managed to really connect with voters in a profound and important and wonderful way. He's activated young voters. He's got them to come along, and that is really meaningful and important. And so I really hope that he can parlay that into what is ultimately a very boring management job.
He created hope.
He created
and
hope.
And he has to deliver on that hope.
And now he has to deal with rats and garbage and negotiating with unions.
The snowstorms.
So I think it's just a very, it's not an ideological job, and that's what I worry about.
Yeah. Okay, let me thank you for your book, which is unlike any I have ever read. I loved it. For your unsparing honesty in that book, and here with us today, and for your continuing, important, fascinating, and witty contributions to our public life.
Thank you.
And let me thank everybody here for joining us on an afternoon suffused with sunshine.
Yes.
As we explored a book suffused with sorrow and resolve. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.